See, we're live. Welcome, staff, fellow councilors, Mayor Day, our fire chief, Mr. Doug Knott. Thanks for joining us today. First of all, I'd like to acknowledge our gathering this evening virtually in the traditional territories of the Subats people with thanks. Also, just a reminder that if you're not speaking, if you could mute your mic, we are live streaming, so any background noise will be picked up and broadcast, not only live, but on our video feed. So with that, welcome to the second phase of budget discussions 2.0, and we'll move through finalizing discussions from last night. We have the fire chief here. I believe we will start with him, Joseph, and then we'll carry on with the 5-year plan on various budget items. So please, Joseph.
Basically, we've got the fire chief here to talk about this year's requirements, the financial requirements, and he will also touch on the requirements for the next number of years in terms of capital requirements. And I think he's been hard at work on that issue. And one of the things we've got to remember is the budget process takes into account the different funds, the general fund, the sewer fund, the water fund, the capital fund, and the reserve funds. And in the general fund is where the operational requirements of the fire department rest, and the capital fund is where the capital requirements fit into. I'll let the fire chief go at it.
Yeah,
Mr.
right.
Knott.
On our 2021 budget.
If I can just actually open up share that document with you.
Sure.
And so that might be useful. Everybody can look at it.
So bring that up so we can all follow along and see exactly where Doug is going on that discussion.
Can you see that?
Okay, that's a little bit different. I gotta find that one.
Yeah, but well, you can follow along with that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
And so this was the last bit that was outstanding from yesterday. And the 21, you got the same numbers there?
Yeah, I think so. I see it there now. A little easier to read in my paper than that.
Okay.
Yeah, going over that for the actuals, wages or costs were very similar to what we thought we would be. Training down, of course, with the COVID, it's all over the map of how we're going to do this, and we probably missed 5 months of practicing. We're doing it virtually, but the training budget is really when we're going out, bringing in instructors, doing weekends, sending people out. And it's really challenged this year, of course. Hoping it gets back on track. And as I explained to some here, currently we're not practicing again, and even in our own building, we're not sending anybody anywhere. We started that in the beginning of February. We had to get through some practicing in January because of new equipment. We had to get familiar with it internally in small groups. We were up against it without seeing something change here in either a vaccine or lower numbers or get more confidence. We're going to stay for maybe all of March that way. So the training on budget wise is really all over the map. Vehicles and equipment did pretty good on our vehicles and equipment for 20. Overall expenditures were only 69,000. We didn't have a lot of major problems the year before, and one truck caused severe problems. So it's on 20 numbers, I think. For my actuals and my budget for 2021, very similar numbers. Our call volume for 2020, we went up probably 30 calls. We might have been slightly down in what we call 2019 for slightly. We've been as high as 175 last year. We're in the 160s, and for our haul, that's normal or a little bit on the high, kind of where we're headed in the last few years. We keep going up. A lot of other departments were down a large percentage, but not ours. Ours was up quite a bit compared to others. So possibly we had a lot of traffic accidents, and medicals were down for a while, but they're definitely back up now. And we had a lot of fires in structures and other things, so a lot more than normal. So on the 2021 numbers are about the same. The plan is about the same for 2021. Any questions on?
Well, first of all, Doug, I'd like to express our thanks to not only you, but to your department for all the hard work that you do provide for our community and surrounding area. Just extend our thanks and appreciation to all the members there, if you would.
Sure, will do.
And looking at my side panel for any questions on the 2021 budget. Day.
Thank you very much. Through you to the fire chief. Fire vehicles and equipment, we're looking at a approximately $40,000 rise in cost in that area. Could you just explain that to me, please? Thank you.
Fire vehicles and equipment that we're looking at from 2021.
It goes from 69,531 in 2020, and I've got a number of 109,900 in 2021.
Okay. The budget
2020
for
budget
2020 was 101 in 2020, but we only spent.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, we're just allowing for breakdowns and anything like that, and we probably got away. If you look at 2019 actual, we're $22,000 less in 2020. Had like I said, in 2019, I had one truck that cost us a lot of money, electronically, and a few problems. So, we're up a little bit. I take it up a little bit. Some trucks, when they're on warranty, you're doing okay. We only have one truck on warranty right now, so you end up running your budget a little bit higher on your maintenance, gambling. That you're going to have some repairs, and so that's where we're at. We're slightly higher in 2021. One truck, number 7, came off warranty, and so did the truck that the chief officers drive, number 4. It came off warranty last year too. So.
Okay, thank you. My apologies for being misreading the columns there, but a good answer, and it helped clarify a few things anyway. So thank you, Doug.
Yeah, I think it's important to note that that's not for equipment purchases, just for maintenance and ongoing preventive stuff with warranty work, etc. Is that correct, Doug?
Yeah, it's a combination of your insurances, your fuels, your maintenance, public works labor, a little bit of our labor, anything like every breakdowns, accidents, anything like that, and that's just a coverage for all the vehicles we got. You have a little bit in each one. If you have a major on another truck, the other trucks have a little bit of cushion built in them so that you can absorb a major repair.
Great. Thank you very much. Any purchases would come from the equipment reserve?
Yeah, capital.
Capital.
The capital in the reserve is where the equipment is, and that's not showing on this page, is it?
Yeah, it will be further down.
Yeah, if you could.
Okay, we're done with this page, are we, everyone?
Yes,
Looks like we are. If you want to move on there, Joseph, please.
Well, indeed.
catch up to you here now.
Yeah. Here we go.
There I am again.
Here
Okay,
we are.
so this is our capital expenditures for, I gotta make sure I'm on the right lines. Oh, yeah. So 2020, the actual, we're down a little bit on the actual from the budgeted plan. We got I don't know if anybody got any questions on there. What we spend on training ground facilities, that's just a general wording of any type of training equipment that were needed. And what we bought this year and we're planning to buy for the next 3 years is upgrade our self-contained breathing apparatus with the $60,000 amount. And that's a request I got into council for this year, just for 2021, as I budgeted 60,000 and budget was approved last September, was to get going on that purchase. It's 57,000 to do 6 more SCBA. With COVID, it's challenging to get stuff delivered in a reasonable time. So I was hoping to be able to place that order this week.
Next week.
Well, next week, yeah. So,
I'll look. Any questions so far?
the only odd one in here on the 21 is with the CVRD and us are having our training up there, they keep coming back with ideas for us to spend money on. And they want us to put a $20,000 fence up there. We got to put a fence with inside a fence. Not really our idea. We don't want to do it, but optimally would be us not to be located in their area, because this is the second time they've come up with $20,000 for us to spend in a few years. So
Yeah, I think I did have Mayor Day's hand up there. If we go to him and see what you're.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And so, Doug, you've already answered most of my question. And I might have missed the sentence. Is there any kind of fee charged for having the training facility on that property?
No, they nailed us with an $18,000 development, one of those, or preparation of grounds before. We've been there for as long as I've been in 40 years on that property, and never had a fee. And then when we asked to stay, and they said yeah, and then they come back after we got involved with it, they wanted to charge us. So we ended up paying that a couple years ago. But then they hired a consultant to look at and they felt our training facility was alluring to the public and might make them walk down and touch some of our stuff, which is an area that no public is allowed into, the signage over. So now they want us to put this fencing around the area that we're designated to use. So.
Okay, if I could follow up on that, Mr. Chair.
Absolutely.
Okay, I just, in the $20,000 now, the CBRD would pay their share of that $20,000 with, as they do share the other costs of our fire department, yes or no?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
Yes, through the tax base, yes.
All right, thank you. And refresh my memory, sorry, is it they pay a third or 2/3?
Works out to a third.
A third, right. That's what I thought. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anyone else while we're paused? Okay, if you want to carry on there, Doug, if you have any more on that page.
No more on that. I don't think I got anything else to talk about on that page. There's some things are kind of generalized for the wording we use under what the water money is used for. Office renovation, it might be computer upgrades and that kind of stuff, or it was classed originally as that, but so of course number 6 fire truck, that's done. It was 2019. It's still on the line used there, and the truck purchase is done. So
Great. The heat pump generator, which one is that? Is that the generator replacement that we were talking about last year?
What happened was we had nothing to do repairs with of a major amount here a few years ago, and the building was approaching the 10-year mark, 12-year mark. Well, see, it's 18 years now, so it's not. It must have been the 15-year mark. I spoke with Joe, and we convinced the CVRD to allow us to start a line of building repair money. We don't have a reserve fund, and that's probably, I'll talk a little bit about that later here, with how things are going with the building being paid out and the trucks being paid out. We looked at that a little bit today with Ronnie and I and Joe. But so we use that for any major, and we had a heat pump go once, And then we had a generator problem replacement type thing. So we've used it for different things, major repairs in the building.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Okay, that concludes that page. Did you want to go to the 5-year for this one, Joe?
Yeah, well, I think the
Or,
fire chief has future plans and maybe he can speak to that.
okay, let's, we'll hear those and then,
Which
Maybe
ones, Joe, you want me to talk on the
On the
financing?
5-year plan would be best. Well, just in terms of what your capital plans are.
Yeah, so in the 5 years, in 2025, there's a pickup inside the hall that would be replaced. That's the major capital that has been planned. And it's about an $80,000 replacement in 2025. The truck would be a 1-ton truck, similar, probably it would end up, the chief officer would end up using it. The truck that's being driven right now would go in and replace the 20-year-old truck. And that would be a utility bush firefighting truck used for every type of thing. It's a modular system that's in the truck now that can be slid into another truck. That would be 80,000. I mean, is there to give us a canopy, give us emergency lightings, a striping package for emergency stuff, which would be probably $10,000 at least over and above the price of a truck, equip it with a radio. That's the major one that's planned. The one that's not written in, and I was going over the money with Ronnie today on how much money in the future of buying equipment is, and it was talked about a couple of years ago, and I think Tim brought up to me that it's a need to come up with another idea on an aerial device, and there's nothing planned in the next 5 years or 30-year budget I wrote up originally on an aerial device. This is something our community does need to happen. And I'll just give you an idea on reserve funding. We're putting away reserve funding, and just kind of going over, our trucks need to be replaced by fire underwriters' recommendations at 20 years and 25 years. So 20 years for an engine, 25 for a tanker. But you can get a 5-year extension if you show proper maintenance and you bring in an inspector and he runs your pumps at a test. So you can go to 25 on an engine and 30 on a tanker. And that's the rules in today's rules. And that's what the budget's set on, that we replace trucks at 25 years for engines and 30 for tenders, or tankers as some people call them. That's what we've been going on, and so far we've been getting away with that. Try and estimate far ahead, with inflation and the US dollar, but looking into the next further down the road past 5 years is we really don't have to replace a truck until 2031, 32 area. That would be the next replacement of a tanker. And trying to get an estimate on what the value would be, a quick estimate of inflation. That truck was $250,000 a few years ago. Probably looking at in 2032 of $300,000 to $350,000. And then the next replacement after that is 2034. So back to what an aerial device. Looking at the reserve funds we're putting away, we'd probably be paying cash for those with the reserve fund numbers right now, but it's not covering and a 5-year plan should include an aerial device somewhere in there, a used aerial device too, as I'll point out, allowing as much as maybe as much as 200,000. They can be bought for varying amount of money, but new they're 1.2 million. So you're looking at finding something about 15 years old and bringing it in the hall and getting 15 years out of it, type thing for a used sum. And that's something I haven't planned in the budget plan that we have here, but it certainly needs to be addressed. The problem around that is locating a place to keep the truck. The fire hall bays are full right now. One one particular item is stored outside right now. So well, that's on my 5-year. I think if anybody needs any questions on that.
Anyone, any hands? Joseph, you had something there?
Doug, you want to talk about the condition of the roof?
Yes, and that kind of ties into the 5-year too, or a more future one. So where we're at with that, I had a little notes on that here. And Ronnie and I were looking at the debt payments. The debt for the fire hall is paid out in 2023. We have 2 other debts. Engine 10 was a 13-year debt. It's paid out 2021. So it's gone this year. And then Engine 6, which we just purchased, we used a lot of capital reserve funds, and we have debt on that till 2024. But what happens here is we've been making payments, or debt payments of about 198,000. They're going to start dropping here. They're going to start dropping. Do you have that, Joe? Or I'll find it maybe here. Here it is. So we're paid in 2021. We're going to be paying debt repayment of 198,000 on the fire hall and the equipment.
Yeah.
And it drops in 22 to 100.
You want me to open it?
Are you able to find that, Joe?
Yeah, just 1 second.
Yeah, you go find that and I'll show them. So it's right there. Where you went past it. It's right there. Right. Yeah.
Debt repayment right there.
Debt repayment. So you can see that
198. It's going to drop to 100 in what do you?
which would probably just be the trucks then, eh, Joe?
Yeah, that's right.
So what Joe and I talked a bit about today was I have a quote on the roof is in not very condition on that building. It's surprisingly, it's in its 18th year. And I only had a quote on the pitched roof and only over the fire hall. And it was 2 years ago and it was $35,000. So we talked about that debt repayment, keeping it going right through and building a reserve fund. And the reserve fund would be for major replacements, upgrades, or eventual replacement. And I would be
So
opposed.
just for clarification, keeping it at the 198 level, and anything below the 198 would be in a reserve. Is that the intent, Joe?
Yes, that's the intent. Once the debt's paid off, we want to maintain that level for the reserve fund.
So if we're looking at the current requisition, instead of reducing that capital expenditure, that would go into either a maintenance reserve or a building reserve, especially considering that there may be another piece of equipment that needs to be housed and may need to be looking at that facility to accommodate that.
Yeah.
So if that's the intent, the savings alone on putting that aside would far outweigh the borrowing of money to do it.
Correct.
Yeah, correct. And you know, who knows what the future of the building would be, whether it would be a major upgrade in through 25, 30 years, I don't, but the replacement costs on this building would, I'm just looking at people that are building fire halls right now, and Cowichan, I think it's like, they're pushing the $8 million mark. $6.5, $8 million is not, we built the building for under 2 million, way under.
So if we were to adjust the 5-year plan to show the 198 all the way through to 2025, knowing that those expenditures would not meet that level, would we have to, in a bylaw, accommodate a reserve fund to put that money aside that is not utilized?
You will have to, yes.
So I think that is probably a good idea, in my opinion, if we kept it at the 198 level for 2022, 23, and 24 and 25. But that's just me personally. And then looking at those funds to be utilized for exactly what the chief had stated. Whether or not that has to be amended before we approve the budget, it probably does, to show the 5-year plan. Taking into consideration that 2021 is the only budget that is will be in stone. The others are projections and stuff can happen. But I think it's important to show that in the 5-year plan.
Yeah, just a quick estimate. I mean, I only look after the fire hall side, but it is a whole town building, and I was not including the flat roof in that. And, you know, there's an estimate there today with a couple of contractors. I got a moss control guy coming in to work on the roofs, and you know, probably in the neighborhood of $80,000 to $100,000 total building replacement roof, if that might not even be enough, but especially with the flat roofs. So.
Mayor Day, I saw your hand.
Yes, thank you very much. So as a matter of process, the bylaw to establish that reserve fund could happen at a future finance meeting. Does staff need any direction? Or is it appropriate to give direction this evening to move forward or wait till?
No, you can approve the budget.
Down the road.
If I may.
Yep.
You can approve the budget with the addition to the transfer to the reserves. That, you know, to add to the fire hall reserve now, to show it as a line item. But the bylaw for establishing that reserve can be done in the next little while. It doesn't have to be immediate. As long as we do it this year. Good.
Thank you.
Clarifying that. Okay, anything else there, Doug, or any other questions?
No, yeah, I mean, from where we were 12 years ago, we're in pretty good financial condition. There wasn't enough money to buy a truck.
Yeah.
So I think most things can be printed or bought without having to go to, definitely not reverse referendum. There may be a little bit of borrowing needed for a truck, but it's just projecting what we, I'm going to write up a report when we do this building, and it's going to be shocking to see the price increases on the, I've got a fairly good idea what they've been since 1950. So that truck was bought for less than $20,000 that we're going to put in the museum. So, and we just paid $660.
Yeah, I think it's, we're in a great place compared to where we were. I remember when we had to go to a referendum for borrowing of one truck, and had we not got that approval, we still were bound to replace that apparatus regardless. So, you know, you're bound by the legislation, but you're also bound by the fire underwriters to replace that within a certain time frame. So I think we're in a way better place than we were previously.
Yeah, and that truck is the one that was 13 years. I think it just got paid out this year. So that handcuffed us a little bit over the years, but that'd be having a 13-year amortization on that one. But we've had nothing like that now. They're all 5 or less. So having a decent reserve fund.
And that's hard work by a finance department that's helped us there too. So just want to make sure that we acknowledge that hard work. Okay, anything else for Mr. Knott? Well, thank you very much, Doug. Appreciate that. And join us again some other time.
Yeah, well, let's hope it's face to face.
Yes, at some point, let's hope that.
All right,
Thanks a
thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll just let Mr. Knott leave here and
Bye. Take care, all.
take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.
So if we want to go next to the general 5-year, is that the?
This
Yeah.
is the one we're going to do, yes. Okay, and Ms. Gill can deal with this. Don't know if she's there.
There she is. Welcome, Ms. Gill.
Hi, good evening, everybody. So, okay, I can get started on the 5-year plan. This 5-year plan, 2021 is the one that is set in stone once we pass this 5-year plan. The 2022 to 2025 years are estimates only and can be revised and will be revised once we get to that year. So as I went over last night, the revenues here are summarized. And if you look at your first page that we went over yesterday and add in the transfer from surplus, which is the $69,533 at the bottom of the revenue section there. That is the deficit we're borrowing, the amount we're borrowing from surplus to balance this budget. And as you can see, the total capital expenditures for 2021 are $3.3 million. And the debt repayment is shown there, as well as the transfers to the fire department reserve, the parks capital, and the building reserve fund. So over the next 4 years, we've also projected our capital, and the totals are there. If there's any questions on this budget, I'd be happy to answer that. Again, over the next 5 years, we are projecting a 3% tax increase for each year until 2025.
Okay. Any questions there? I'm going to start. If we look at the police force, for instance, the incremental increases in that, given that we're a population under 5,000, we don't pay full policing costs. If you can remind me what percentage that we do pay of policing costs, I'd appreciate that.
I'm going to defer that one to Joe. Do you know the percentage we pay of policing?
I think it's around 3%.
So given some population projections that are, in my opinion, a little bit lax, should we ever reach the population of 5,000 people, we would be incurring full police costs, which would be much more than the line item that's showing this year at $186,000, for instance. So I just wanted to bring that into view that policing costs, although it looks like a lot, would be much more if we were a population of over 5,000 people. Any other questions on 2021 budget? I will go to transfers from surplus. The 69,533 is to accommodate keeping within the 3% increase. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yes.
So if we were not to do that, the increase would be substantially more,
Yes.
percentage-wise.
Yes.
Okay, anyone else?
Would be 6%.
That's correct. Each percent is $20,000.
22, yeah.
It would be almost 3%. Okay. Mayor Day, is that just an adjustment? Or question?
No, the hand's really going up.
Okay.
Thank
Carry
you.
on.
So just so everybody here tonight is clear, if we don't ask the questions tonight, these are the numbers that are not written in stone yet, of course, but these are numbers we'll be taking to first and second reading in a 5-year financial plan. So I guess there's still plenty of opportunity for council to voice any opinions on the level of tax increase and budget numbers they see as an issue or a non-issue. I would just start off my commenting, but I think that even with COVID-19 in our community, it's of my opinion that the community, although it may have suffered for a while in the beginning, we've sort of come through this, and the business community is boasting record years and the likes, and we're sort of actually been a beneficiary because people are being scared to go to the larger box stores and do all the business that they used to, maybe. So given that and the age of our demographics, and that they are on incomes that weren't affected by COVID-19 and things like that, and that's not everybody, but I realize it's a larger percentage of our population. I feel quite satisfied at 3%, and I know other communities have come out with smaller increases, but they've borrowed more or taken more out of their reserves and use other means of buying that down, and probably have a larger percentage of commercial taxation within their boundaries. So given that we only have, for the most part, residential, and I think maybe staff can fill in the percentage wise, that 3% is a pretty pretty fair increase considering the amount of work that can be done. And I'm myself comfortable with 3%, but that's just my opinion as well. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else want to take a stab at that? Councillor Austin, I will acknowledge you.
I was just gonna say, yes, I feel 3% is fair. It may be hard on a few people, but I really think that we need to keep everything in line. And I think the 2021 budget looks fairly good. And I thank our staff for all their hard work on it. I know it can't be easy to try and spread money around. So I think the 3% is fine from my point of view at this point.
Okay. Councillor Sandu, please.
Thank you. If we wanted to bring it down to less than, say, 2%, like try to stick with some of the other municipalities, stick to what, our capital projects are and whatnot, could we not transfer a bit more money from surplus from 2020 to just lower the increase?
That's through to either Joseph or Miss Gill.
I guess, yes.
Did Ms. Gill speak to it? Oh, no, I can't hear.
Muted.
Muted.
So yes, that is a possibility to transfer additional funds from the surplus and reduce the increase. I didn't think that was the recommended way to go, just because of the large amount of capital that we're doing, over 3 million. And but yeah, it is an option if that is the desire of council.
Okay, follow up, or are you okay?
Yeah, I just wanted to put it out there just for discussion. And I know maybe, our businesses have done well, but people are impacted. I mean, I haven't worked at my job since November. So I'm not crying about it, but the reality is I think there's probably one member of every few households that the people aren't working due to restrictions and whatnot. So it's just for conversation if we want to even have the discussion, but I would sooner it be lowered to 2% than 3% for this year, just because of COVID. And that's just my opinion.
No, thank you very much. Councillor Vamaka, are you with us, or?
Can you see me?
We can't see you, but we can hear you.
Yes, sorry.
I'm going to go to you next.
Yes, thank you. I know we had this conversation and we did reduce our taxes last year because of the uncertainty of COVID. And so to do it again this year, I would just caution, because then next year we may find that we have to all of a sudden bump it to 4+. So I think the steady, consistent increase across the board is probably a little more favorable, because sooner or later you have to pay the piper. And our finance lady is right. We have a lot of capital projects, and we, have found from the community that they want a lot of these things updated. And so I think we have to stick with our tax base, even though it's a real tough decision here at the table, because like we always say, we're also taxpayers here also.
Thank you. I've got myself on the
Thank you.
list, and then I've got you again, Mayor Day. So I'm going to go a different route. I think some of the reductions we accomplished last year was by canceling some capital projects and some that have been moved forward to this year. When I looked at cost of living across Canada for 2020, it's anywhere between 1.1% and 1.9% throughout Canada. And we're looking at the average of 30 to 40% reduction in wages in most households, according to Canada Revenue Agency for this year. So major impacts financially for each household. And with the continued restrictions ongoing for the foreseeable future, I don't see that is going to be solved in the first 3 quarters of this year. If there was ever a time to accommodate a minimal increase in taxation, I think this would be the year to utilize those reserve funds. And any finance director or CAO worth their salt would tell me I'm wrong. And I appreciate that because we are utilizing funds to negate an increase. The only other possibility is to reduce some of those capital costs, to reduce some of those projects. And I'm not comfortable doing that either. I think we are in a great financial state thanks to some of our decisions that we have made in the past. And it's just my opinion this year, if there is a year to utilize reserve funds, this would be it. And I will go to Mr. Meriday next.
Okay.
You're still muted there. Oh.
So thank you very much. And I know by opening the commenting up that I would have opened a good can of worms here and a great conversation, but that's why we're here. And this is the part I look forward to the most is, you know, we need to go around the room if it takes 5 times to reach some form of consensus, I think, between all of us who are making this decision here. So I'm quite happy to go to 2%. But just going on some of the comments from Councillor McGonigal and what I've heard at the table over the past while as we built up to this day, that policing costs, I think our population projections are a little lagging. If all the units that are getting built in the next 5 years get built, they're proposed to be built or get built and house people, we're going to be pushing the 5,000 and our policing costs will be going up. With our aging infrastructure that we already have a huge deficit and we're quite a ways in behind in getting that done, and we need to keep saving for that. I'm a little hesitant to reach into the reserve funds to grab that, but you know what, a modest amount would be, I'd be comfortable with that as well. But you know, given the fact that a 1% tax decrease or increase is around $16,000 to $18,000, I've looked at a few of the numbers and just personally, some of the something I could live without. I could live without $16,000 worth of road paving if that's the number that it works out to get us down to 2%. Get us down to 2% instead of 3%. So, or that was the one that I've chosen to, if we're going to reduce the tax increase in taxation this year, I'd be willing to move a $16,000 or $20,000 decrease in the road paving program. So those are my comments. That's not an official motion, but I'm just giving you all a heads up that that's how I would go about getting 2%. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. And I'm certainly not suggesting that we utilize those restricted reserves. I am talking about surplus funds in general, not those restricted funds. So just so for clarity, that they would not reside within those restricted funds. They are specifically for specific projects, whether they're the restricted water fund, the restricted sewer fund, the municipal building fund. We cannot utilize those to reduce taxation. Similar to the COVID-19 grant, we can't utilize that to reduce taxation. It's quite explicit on what that funds can be used for. So I don't want to open that can of worms. But
no, and I knew that. I just used the wrong term. So
no,
sorry about that.
No, that's fine. I just wanted to make
Yeah.
sure that the public had the proper clarification. And we don't need to make a decision tonight. I think tonight we're here to broach ideas and so staff can see where some of the discussion is coming from, and whether it's reducing capital projects or whether it is looking at dipping into the surplus to reduce that. What is a comfortable level for 2021, given where we have come from in 2019? I'll recognize Councillor Womaka, please.
Thank you. So the $20,000, and that would be roughly divided by how many households? If somebody's got, sorry, how many households, Joe?
About 1,600, I believe.
About 1,600 households of $20,000. Let's do the math fast. Divided by 1,600 households. So
But
12,
But it'll depend on assessment. So.
that's right. And so the other thing is too, is that even if we reduce our portion by 1%, that's not the total tax bill though. So the amount going to fire, CVRD, hospital, library, etc., is not affected for the taxpayer. So that 1% difference is only on what they would pay to the municipality.
Correct.
And so per household, that kind of dwindles down to not a lot, I don't think, on every average person's tax bill, I would think. But maybe you being the finance, you and Ronnie Gill could give us a better estimate of what that would save an average house owner.
Yeah, we can do that.
You're correct, Lorna. The collections to the other governments, as you can see on that first page that we had shown the other night, are roughly 3 million, whereas the taxes that the town collects for itself are 2.3 million. So more than 50% of the taxes that are on that tax bill are collected and paid out to other jurisdictions.
Whether it be CVRD, library board, et cetera, those that we only have representation on, we don't have control over.
School district.
School
and
district, et cetera. So
Policing.
absolutely, and those are provincial. So the only direct correlation that we have in reductions is within the tax base that we reside within our municipality, 87% of which is residential. So I think the CVRD budget has already been placed within our area at 2.56%. And if we're looking at an additional 3% within ours, it's cumulative. And I always hear that it's only a cup of coffee. But pretty soon I've got an urn full of coffee and no vessel to put it in because I can't afford the cup. It's death by 1,000 drops. And again, this is just discussion for tonight and how we can accommodate the least impact on taxation while still trying to do improvements within the town, because everybody wants to see that. So anyone else? Now that I've opened that can of worms?
How much electric hand?
The electric. What? Okay. What does it?
Okay, are we going to move on with the other 4 years, or Joseph?
Yeah, well, you really have three options. If you want to keep it at 2%, then you can draw down on your savings, or you can cut down capital, or you can cut down on services. So, you know, it's really take your pick. But I mean, I don't think drawing down on your savings in the long run is a smart idea. Because we do have, I mean, we hear from the public all the time, we have an infrastructure deficit. If you want to fix that, and if you keep drawing down on your surplus funds, you're not ever going to get there. And
I most certainly agree with you. And that's what I stated earlier. Any CAO or finance director worth their salt would disagree with me.
Okay.
But if there is any time that we should be looking at that, it would be during the COVID year when there's a 30 to 40% reduction in family incomes, when there's still people on CERB, when there's still people on care funds. That's my only point. If there was ever a year to look at that, it would be this year. Mayor Day?
Yeah, I'm just wondering if it would be appropriate if we didn't give staff some sort of direction, or if we just want to let them go with what they've heard and do that, or would we like to have a look at 2% and 3% and the differences in the tax implications per average household and get them to come back at the future meeting and show us that comparison?
Yeah.
Would that make any sense?
Yeah, on the average household.
Because they're really hearing sort of a 50-50 from folks, and I'm just not sure whether they got a clear, but you know, that's just my opinion. Thank you.
Sounds good. If we can look at those different numbers, whether you want to go 2% or 1.5 or whatever you want to pick, and what the impact of that would be per 100,000, because I think it is based on assessment. So depending where you reside is the impact that it will be. On taxation. And I don't suggest to put additional work on staff, considering the amount of work they've already put into this. But given some of the discussion here tonight, whether we're looking at 3, 2, 1.5, I think we should see what the impact to the surplus would be if we were to draw down to 1.5 or 2, or what that would accommodate within that. Mayor Day?
Yeah, just a quick follow-up, and would that be an item we could ask for just through you to staff that at next Thursday's scheduled budget discussion? Would that be a possibility?
That would be the
That would
best
work.
way.
Okay.
Thank you.
I think there's clear direction there on us making an informed decision, so to speak. Okay, anything else on the 5-year plan that you wish to speak to? Again, the 2022 to 2025 are projections, as Ms. Gill had stated, and can be changed within those budget year discussions. Nothing else there? Well, thank you very much. Oh, sorry, Mayor Day.
Yeah, I was going to mention it earlier, but I think now is more appropriate. I mean, there was a mention, and I know it has been mentioned even back before 3 years ago, about a aerial device. I call it a ladder truck. So, not that I'm advocating we need to go right out and buy one, but if staff could, I'm sure that the fire chief will keep bringing it up until it gets traction among staff. So just wondering if, that should be inserted at some point, if it's an actual item that the underwriters are wanting us to have and whatnot. So, but that's not for me to judge, but anyways, I just thought it should probably be in the 5-year plan, because I realize that it probably is a necessary piece sooner rather than later. So because what the fire chief presented in 2031, 2032, and 2035, I think he said, or 2034, there's a lot of trucks coming due in the 3-year period. So if a ladder truck's in our horizon for real, then it might be to our advantage to start thinking about it before we get to the year 2031. That's my only comment.
I appreciate that, and taking into consideration that it also needs a place to reside. And currently there is no place to reside. So we'll have to take a lot of points into consideration. I think eventually that it will be a needed piece of apparatus. Currently under the mutual aid agreement, if needed and if available, those devices which reside in other departments can be called upon. But then again, if they are being utilized within their own communities, they would not be allocated to a mutual aid problem. So just for clarification, I think that's something that the fire chief has stated would be something we should be looking at some point. Currently within our building code, 3 stories are the maximum building without variances. And if that changes, then so would the need for that piece of apparatus. I know there may be some additional facilities coming forward that might want to exceed that height. And that may be the point where that would have to be taken into consideration. So I think staff has heard a lot of discussion, both good and appropriate for future. Is that for next Thursday you're looking for?
Okay.
Okay. How about grants and aid? Would you like to do them next?
Yes,
Okay.
we thought we had an additional grant and aid, but they never submitted one, so we will go to that now.
Okay.
And let the director of finance speak to it.
So before we go to this grant and aid, do we want to finish off the 5-year plan for the water and sewer budgets?
Oh, you want to go there? Sorry.
I just thought that might be appropriate before we.
Yeah, before we go here.
No, that's appropriate. My fault. I apologize.
Here we go.
Okay, so attached here are the 5-year plans for both the water and sewer funds. I will draw your attention to the sewer fund first. We've applied or made application for a sewer treatment plant grant. And you can see that there at 2.2 million and 3.1 million in the years 2021 and 2022. And that's why the capital, related capital in 2021 is 3.5 million and 5.8 million in 2022. In order, if we were successful with the grants, we would be using pretty much all of the surplus at 980,000 roughly in 2021 and 1.3 million in 2022 to cover our share of that project cost. And at that point, we were pretty much wiping out the surplus that we do have coming into 2021. So those were the key points that I wanted to mention in the sewer fund. So the next 3 years, 2023, you can see a jump in the treatment and collection costs because we think, or there is going to be additional costs if once that project is complete, staffing and other related costs as what there was with the water treatment plant. And so I think that's all I need to say about the sewer fund. Is there any questions anybody has?
Any hands on that? Seeing none, do you want to move to the water?
No, I think we're going to maintain the parcel tax in the sewer area, correct?
Correct. Depending on how those costs come back and if the costs are a lot to operationally maintain it, then we may need to look at either user fee increases or parcel tax increases, but that's not a decision that we need to make. We first need to get the grant and get this project underway and completed before we get there for that fund. That is actually a different story going into the water utility fund. We have completed this year with a transfer to from surplus using $300,000 in 2021 and 269,400 in 2022, and that pretty much wipes out what's there in the surplus. And 2022 does show a jump in the parcel tax from 345,000 in 2021 to 519,000 in 2022. That is an increase in the parcel tax of $75 a parcel. So you're going from, you're going from the additional to $300. From $50, sorry, it's going, what is it? Sorry, I'm confused here. Yeah, it is an increase in the parcel tax, a substantial increase, but that is the only way to sort of, over the next 3 years, be able to cover the operating costs with what you're collecting and capital and maintaining capital at very minimal amounts at 300,000 a year. And that isn't a lot if you're trying to replace water mains throughout town. So if there is more water mains and more things that need to be done in this fund, we will need to look at borrowing.
Mr. Vallanco.
Sorry, can you hear me? So a question to the finance director. Maybe you can explain, I'm a little confused on this. So you have the revenues for both the sewer and the water utility funds. And now when I look at the administration in the expenditures on both of them, it looks like over 30% is in administration fees.
That is correct. So these are, these funds don't have audit costs, they don't have insurance costs, they don't have overhead costs. So all of the costs from the other operations fund is being charged here in proportion to our costs. So
excuse me, what do you mean by cost?
Well, the water treatment plant, there's no insurance cost being costed here. When we pay for our insurance, it's in the operations fund. So the costs are all in the other fund, and to recover those costs from water and sewer, they're charged administration charges.
Okay,
so
thank you.
Costs, all kinds of operating costs are, fixed costs are included in the other fund, in the operating fund, in the general fund, and they're charged to the water and sewer funds.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Mayor Dave.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So I'm not an expert in development cost charges. I do know that we have a planned review of those charges. And could you explain to me if we, in those development cost charges that we could include, or if it does already include, as I said, I'm not an expert, increases that would accommodate some of the costs associated with this operation of the sewer and water utilities,
The
or
short
to go
answer-
towards future upgrades.
Yeah, the short answer is no. You can't use, those are restricted funds. They can only be used in certain areas, and they would not be allowed to be used for operational or capital that we deal with in these, as we put forth in these budgets.
Okay, so the only way we can do that is through user fees and parcel taxes, is to add to that fund.
Correct, all grants.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, anything else there, Ms. Gill?
No, I think that is all. I think next year is going to be a big discussion year on the parcel tax in the water fund.
I agree. Okay, that concludes the 5-year on those two.
Correct.
Now we'll go to grant need.
There we go.
Okay. Thanks.
Can you see it?
Got it there. Ms. Gill?
Okay, so we've only received one formal grant aid request, and that was from WildSafe BC for $1,000. A counselor had made a suggestion about a sign at Saywell Park that's been damaged, to replace that, which is only $70. I was anticipating one more that didn't come through. And in previous years, we have approved something for LCS dry grad at a later date. So I don't know if we need to discuss that at this point, but that is the grant needs.
Okay, I have Councillor Sandhu's hand up.
I had the application and they were requesting $100. They sent it to the town.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I don't know what,
with the application, they put in their budget and everything. So
I'm not sure I got a copy of that, but we can easily change that to $100.
okay.
And if I may, the total budget of this includes the $1,000 scholarships,
Yes.
and that's plural. That's 2 scholarships at 500 apiece.
No, it's just one.
Just
Okay.
one.
Excellent. Okay, your pleasure, ladies and gentlemen. Mayor Day.
Okay, well, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the budget grant and aids as presented, with the amended number of 100 for sign at Saywell Park, and $1,000 for Wild Safe BC, and $1,000 for the LCS scholarship, if that's appropriate.
Yeah, we'll just bring this to the next finance meeting, and then it could formally be adopted there.
Okay, we're just looking for numbers right tonight, whether we wanted to reduce any or, so we're gonna make an amendment on the sign at Saywell to $100. Are we leaving the Wild Safe at 1,000 as per Mayor Day's suggestion? And the 1,000 for the scholarships. Everyone okay with that? You can give me a thumbs up, or, okay, we'll move that to finance and admin meeting for finalization there, and then to council for budget approval at the appropriate time.
Yeah.
Anything else tonight, Joseph?
Nothing else other than public input, I guess.
Well, why don't we wait for that? That email again for public input is general@lakecowichan.ca. Anything that has been discussed budget-wise tonight? If you have any questions or comments, we're not doing bookings for Lakeview, so please wait till the reservation site opens. We did have a request for that last night, and that won't be here. So again, that's general@lakecowichan.ca. And we'll take a 3-minute break and wait to see if we have any input.
So I can close all these shared stuff.
Sure can.
Mr. Fernandez, could you email the 5-year plan and the grant and aid? That I didn't get that document. I usually
No
just,
problem. We'll do that.
I'll print it out myself. That's fine.
Oh, no, we'll send it out to you today.
Thank you.
Was the 5-year plan sent by email? Like ahead of tonight?
Unmute.
I never received a 5
No,
year.
no, we didn't send it to anybody. We had talked about presenting it today, just a 2-page thing. You can take another look at it. We'll send it off to all council
Before the 11th. Okay.
Thank you.
for next week, yeah.
Yep.
No.
I'm going to put the oven on. Oh, I guess I better turn my mic off.
So I think we're getting close. If your video can come back up so I know that you're here. Unless you're eating another Donair, Councillor Vomaka.
It was a Donair pizza. That sounds interesting.
So first of all, before we go to questions, I just want to thank everyone for their candid input and their discussion tonight. I appreciate everyone's view, and in the end, with those differing views, we will come to a decision. And collaboratively, we move forward with the best decision that this body will make for the betterment of the community. So I just wanted to thank you all and appreciate the hard work that we all put in. With very little appreciation sometimes. So I want to thank you. Was there any input, Mr. Fernandez?
None.
Okay, final comments from anyone? I'm going to thank staff again for your hard work and the more work that we gave you tonight, and look forward to further discussion at the finance and admin meeting within the couple of items that we have brought forward. And perhaps at that time we can come to a final number and move forward at a future council meeting to accommodate that in a bylaw form. So again, appreciate it. Mayor Day.
Yes, just thank you. And I think I heard a conversation that I stepped away where that we're going to get the 5-year plan on paper or documents emailed to us.
Yes.
Because I just think we should all have that in front of us and give that a fair share of discussion at that next Thursday's meeting. So everybody.
We'll send it to you after this meeting.
And again, also, as I mentioned, just after the meeting ended last night, yes, thank you very much for all this. This is the most organized set of sessions I've had with the Town Lake Cowichan and the budget proceedings, and it's been awesome. And I'm sure Councilor McGonigal can appreciate how it went as smoother, much smoother than his other position in the CBRD. And so thank you, Councilor McGonigal, for chairing these meetings.
Appreciate it. There's less cats to herd in this format, so it's a little more manageable, and maybe not any feral cats in this group.
Oh, that's good.
Just feral hens.
What?
Oh,
Well, that bylaw hasn't been finalized yet,
Hey,
so careful.
never you mind.
But thank you very much, everyone, and look forward to next Tuesday. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Have a good
Thanks,
night.
everybody. Thank
Good
you.
night.
Thanks.
Thanks. Good night.
Bye-bye.
Night.
Night.
bye-bye.